Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. My respected, if the brother can, appreciate it, Jazakullahu Khairun. My respected brothers and elders in Islam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So the topic for today is how to raise righteous children, how to apply some of the principles of prophetic parenting. And with children, first of all, children will be children. So if you are here to figure out how to get my children to clean the room all the time, or how to have them do their homework all the time, and if you figured that one out, then you can let me know too, because I don't know. But how to apply some of the principles of prophetic parenting, that's what, inshallah, we want to talk about today. And there's no doubt that we are living in very, very challenging times. But Allah Azza wa Jal does not lay a responsibility upon a person more than he can bear. And some of us are challenged with circumstances that are more difficult than others. Some are divorced, some are widowed, some are reverts, some have work hours that keep them away from their children for long, long periods of time. So everybody has a different set of circumstances and challenges that we have to work with. But the beauty of prophetic parenting is such that in whatever time we have available, and the concern that is there, the niyyah that is there, that insha'Allah, these children will grow up to be righteous because we've put in the effort that we could. We've done the best that we could, given the circumstances that we find ourselves in. I was talking to our brothers a little while ago for the youth program, and I mentioned that there is nobody that does not undergo some kind of musibah, some kind of affliction, some kind of adversity. And I shared the story that is mentioned in some of the books of history about a pious king. He's said to be Dhul Qarnayn, who was far away from home, and he had a mother. And he felt sick, and he realized that he was going to pass away before he got home. And how was he to comfort his mother, knowing how much grief she would go through after her son had passed away? So he sent a letter to her saying that, "O mother, invite all the women in that place, in that town for food. Invite them over. But before they step forward to take the food, say that whoever has not been afflicted by any adversity may step forward and take the food. Whoever has not been afflicted by any sort of musibah, step forward and take the food." And so nobody stepped forward, because every single one person has gone through some type of affliction, some kind of problem in life. And so when the body finally arrived, she realized that her son had tried to make her grief, her problem, her musibah easier for her. And so our situation becomes easier when we realize that everybody goes through challenges. And parenting is not an easy thing. Tarbiyah in this time, in this environment, is not an easy thing. But if we realize that everybody is going through challenges, and some of us are going through challenges that are more difficult, brothers who are reverts, sisters who are reverts, widows, people who are divorced, they find themselves having to put in so much more effort. And so we have to realize that, these challenges, these circumstances are challenging, but it's not something that is insurmountable. It's not something that is impossible. It can be done. It can be done, and it definitely can be done. We just have to put in that effort. And so we have to realize that what is the circle of control? What capability do I have? What do I have control over? What can I do for my children? And not worry about those things that are outside of my control, those things that I don't have control over, because that will only put grief into your heart. If you don't have control over it, you don't have control over it. You can't do anything about it. But those things that you do have control over, your circle of control, what can I do to give proper tarbiyah to my children? How can I make them love the Prophet ﷺ? What are some of the strategies that I can implement to follow the way of Rasulullah ﷺ? If you focus on that, that's where you will find success, inshaAllah. And so we don't want to judge anybody by exteriors. Don't look at somebody and say, this is a trick of shaitan, that you sometimes see a person, a child who is pious, But outwardly it seems that the parents have not given proper tarbiyah to the children. They don't have too much concern for him. But the child is pious, he prays, mashallah, you see him, he's obedient, he has a lot of adab, lot of etiquette. And you wonder, how did this happen? How did this child grow up like this when I know that his parents are not like that? Well, first of all, you don't want to judge because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And second of all, even if you are right, then it's only the fadl of Allah Azza wa Jal. That parent will be negligent because they did not do tarbiyah properly. It is only the fadl of Allah Azza wa Jal that the child grew up that way. The parent did not fulfill their duty. On the other hand, if the parents tried their best, did whatever they could, and the child did not turn out to be pious, did not turn out to be righteous, then the parents will not be held negligent because they did best what they could do. What was capable, what they were able to do in their circle of control, they did that. They fulfilled their responsibility. So keep that in mind and don't be fooled by these exteriors because it's a trick of shaitan. Every single one of us wants the best for our children. It is a natural thing that is put into our hearts. There's a beautiful hadith where a woman, she was nursing her child, her infant, and a person and a man on horseback rode by. And he was a person that if you look at him, his demeanor, his way, his clothing, everything conveyed success, status, power, honor. And so when she looked at him, and she had her child and she's nursing him, she said, "Oh Allah, make my son like him. I want my son to be like him." Every single one of us, when we see somebody that's successful, that's powerful, that has status, honor, power in society, "Oh Allah, make my son like him." So the child leaves the suckling, and he's one of them. He's one of the few children that has spoken in that age. It's an authentic hadith. And he says, "Oh Allah, don't make me like him." So his dua is the opposite of his mother's dua. And after a little while, a woman is being dragged, and she's being hit, and she's being made humiliated. And they're telling us that they're telling this woman that you did wrong, and you committed haram, and you stole, and you did this illicit relationship, you did this, you did that. So she sees this humiliation and she says, "Oh Allah, don't make my son like her." And the child leaves the mother's suckling again and says, "Oh Allah, make me like her." So the opposite. And so she now realizes something's up. So she asks him, why are you saying like that? And he said, the first one, he's an oppressor. As for the second one, she's being oppressed. Respected brothers, we all want our children to have honor in society. We all want our children to have status in society. But that should not lead to that child becoming an oppressor. That he gains power and status in society and wealth, and he comes, for example, on a masjid board, and now he's oppressing the teachers, the scholars, the imams, and he's using his newfound power to do wrong instead of doing good. On the outside, it seems so good. He has everything. He has wealth, status, honor. Look, he's on the masjid board too. MashaAllah, he's involved in the masjid. But that's the outside. Look on the inside. So desire what is good for your children, but on the inside as well. Don't just make that superficial judgment on the outside. Like the people that look at Qarun in the time of Bani Israel. فخرج على قومه في زينته قال الذين يريدون الحياة الدنيا يا ليت لنا مثل ما أوتي قارون. When the people saw all the wealth, all the status, all the power that Qarun had, they said, we wish we had like what he had. But the people who had knowledge realized that this was not it. This is not the end all of it. So realize that for your children, that both inside and outside you want good for them. That goodness that is outside, or that a status or power that is outside, needs to be accompanied by the good on the inside. Otherwise, he will become an oppressor. Otherwise, she will become an oppressor. She will commit dhulm and oppression on others and will cause more harm than good. And that's not something that anybody wants for their children. So this is what we want for our children. Teach them justice. Teach them love and compassion. And it is the beauty of the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that he taught everything. From these highest things like justice and passion and love to something as simple as going to the washroom. Find the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. So when he's teaching the Sahaba, when the Prophet ﷺ is teaching the companions, he says to them that إِنَّمَا أَنَا لَكُمْ بِمَنْزِلَةِ الْوَالِدِ وَعَلِّمُكُمْ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام, that I am like to you like a father. I am unto you like a father. I'm teaching you all those things that you need to know. And that the muhaddiseen who explain this hadith, they say that there is a sign and encouragement that people who are guardians, who are in a position of giving tarbiyah, raising their children, need to teach their children everything that they need to know about the deen. Because the Prophet ﷺ is telling the Sahaba that I'm like a father to you, I'm teaching you. And the Prophet ﷺ continued after this, teaching them the etiquettes of going to the washroom. Teaching them the etiquettes of going to the washroom, how you should go to the washroom. In another hadith, a disbeliever came to Salman al-Farsi, the companion, and he tried to mock him. And this believer tried to mock him and tried to mock the sunnah too. And he said, "Allamakum nabiyukum kulla shay, hatta al-khira'a." He said, your Prophet ﷺ has taught you everything, even how to go to the washroom. And he meant it as a sign of mockery. Is this something to be taught? Your Nabi has taught you everything, even going to the washroom. Salman al-Farsi used this thing, it's called uslubul hakim, the way of the wise man. He said, Ajal, of course. He turned that mockery into a source of pride. It is a source of pride for me that my Nabi has taught me how to go to the washroom too. And he went on mentioning the same things that Rasulullah had mentioned in that first hadith, that I'm like a father to you, I'm teaching you. All the etiquettes of going to the washroom, Salman al-Farsi listing them. He taught us this, he taught us this, he taught us this, he taught us this. It's a source of pride for me that he taught me that. And so the message in it for us is that we have to connect our children to the love of the Prophet ﷺ. That we ourselves and our children see the Prophet ﷺ as the ultimate role model. After that, because they are going to be challenged. They are going to be challenged on the sunnah of Rasulullah ﷺ. Is this something? What is this? What is this that you're going? Going to the washroom like that? Doing this like this? What is the point of that? If there is some sort of inferiority complex, then I don't want to do it in front of them, it's too this. But if that pride there, that honor is there, then the response will be like Salman al-Farsi. Of course, it is an honor for me to do it this way. Because the Prophet ﷺ did it this way. Just like he was the father to the ummah, teaching them. He's like a father teaching us. That is how my father taught me. So this is what we want for our children, that we teach them all these things. And we inculcate this pride in them by putting in them the love of the Prophet ﷺ. Just telling them, for example, do this, that's not sufficient. If the love of the Prophet ﷺ is there, then inshallah, then any sunnah coming after that will become much, much easier. And so the easiest way to do it is to model it for them. To be a good role model for them. Because this was the greatest teaching method of the Prophet ﷺ. He taught by example. Because our youth, they can see hypocrisy a mile away. He's telling me to do this, he's not doing it himself. Why is that? Okay, I'll just do it until I get older, and then I can say no. It's only going to work for a little while. But if that love is there, that I'm going to do it, I'm doing it myself, it's a shared goal. We're going towards Jannah together, my son. We're going towards Jannah together, my daughter. It's a shared goal for us. We do it, let's do it together. Let's learn by example. Then they can see that my father is striving with me. My mother is striving with me. They're making that effort together. It's about like that child that was memorizing surah of the Quran. And in the surah, Al-Muzammil, the order comes to the Prophet ﷺ to stand in night in tahajjud. And so the son comes home after memorizing, getting that dars, getting that sabaq, and he asks his father, like, who is the order to in this verse? The father said, well, the order is to the Prophet ﷺ to stand up at night and pray. He said, okay. Continues memorizing the surah. Towards the end, the Sahaba are standing in salah too. That's the portion that towards the end of the surah. He said, who are these people? He says, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So a son says to his father that, is there any good in leaving out something that the Prophet ﷺ did and the Sahaba did? Father says, no. I'm going to start praying tahajjud from tonight. So the father starts praying tahajjud. Son wakes up and he sees his father praying. He's modeling, and the son also makes wudu, comes and stands by his father. Father says, you're too young for that, too small. No, pray tahajjud later on when you get older. He said, my father, what are you going to say on the day of judgment? That you want me to tell Allah that you stopped me from praying tahajjud? He's like, no, I can't do that. So you go pray, come pray tahajjud with me. Come pray tahajjud with me. So you want to model, you want to be that. You want to strive toward that shared goal. Knowing that you're not perfect, I am not perfect. But those, if we have that shared goal, if your son, if your daughter, if your children see that you're authentically trying, then inshallah they know that this is not a hypocrisy. It's not something that I'm being told to do something and there's another set of rules for the big people, right? They can see right through that, but they see that both of us are on the same path, then that works. That's what we want. And for that, we have to think about our flock, right? كُلُّكُمْ رَاعٍ وَكُلُّكُمْ مَسْئُولٌ عَنْ رَعِيَّتِهِ. Every one of you is a shepherd, and every one of you is responsible for his flock. The people who are under us, below us, we have a responsibility. As a shepherd, like a shepherd is responsible for his flock, as a parent, you are responsible for your children. Just like a shepherd is responsible for his sheep. And it's the story of, for example, the village people who hire a shepherd together. In the olden days, the village would come together and they would hire a shepherd to look after all the sheep while they would go along their business. And at the end of the day, the shepherd would come down and then he would give each person his sheep back. So they would meet at a vantage point. This is where they would meet the shepherd is bringing the sheep. And so they're waiting, the sun is about to set. See, where's the shepherd? Where's the shepherd? They see a person coming down, he has a stick on the back of his neck coming down. They say, this can't be the shepherd. He comes down. They say to him, oh, it is the shepherd. Where's all the sheep? He's like, all this while I was thinking, what did I leave behind in the mountains? I left something behind in the mountains. I couldn't think what it was. All the while I was coming down, I was thinking, what was it that I left behind? I left all the sheep behind in the mountains. And that's our case, when this is in front of us. This is in front of us. It's like that everything's left behind. The children doing whatever they want. Can I do this? Can I do it? Yeah. Just like the example of the shepherd, right? So we need to be with our children to inspire them. You can't inspire them from far away, right? You need to be with your children to inspire them. And the best way to inspire them is to be there and to do that action with them. Help them learn with you. Shared goal. When mistakes are made, how can we get better at it? Praise them for what they did right. Tell them that this was what was wrong. Show concern. I'm concerned about what you did. And you have specific examples in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. First of all, how he would give nasiha, what we call constructive criticism. If a child does something wrong, right, you want to build, you don't want to destroy. And that was the way of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Constructive criticism, proper nasiha, proper advice. And this would be done in specific ways. For example, there's the story of a companion whose name was Abu Bakr radiyallahu an. He entered the masjid and he saw that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the jama'ah, the congregation, had gone into ruku. Out of his zeal of not wanting to miss one rakat with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and missing his congregation prayer, he made ruku right there. And he started walking. Right? He was far away from the sufuf, from the rows. He made ruku at the masjid and then he started coming up. And so after the salah finished, the Prophet ﷺ was told about it. So he told this companion, he said, Jazakullahu Khairun. May Allah Azza wa Jal increase you in your good. But don't do that again. You want to come up and then make ruku, right? When you get to the saf. May Allah Azza wa Jal increase you in your zealousness to join the congregational prayer, to make it on the ruku, but don't do that again. So look at the Prophet ﷺ before he gave the correction. Prophet praised him because that action was coming from the right place. The heart was in the right place, right? Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, he wanted to relate a dream to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Sahaba would relate dreams to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He also wanted to relate a dream. He was a young companion. And so his sister was married to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one time he saw a dream and he told his sister about it, and she in turn told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam listened to this entire dream, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Abdullah is the best of men. Here comes the praise. And then what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam wanted Abdullah ibn Umar to do, if he would pray at night, if he would pray tahajjud. And after that, Abdullah ibn Umar would sleep very little at night, continuously praying. And when he was a young companion, the praise, then the correction, or what the Prophet ﷺ wanted that Sahabi to do, or if he saw in that Sahabi capability to reach higher and higher. So push them higher. So that's how we should do. The nasiyah should be there. It should be accompanied with praise, with love, with compassion. And the children can see that this person is desiring the best for me. They want good for me. And they'll be inspired to do good. Even when you're angry, even when something goes wrong, they make a mistake, you need to show concern. You need to show that you really, really care. Because that's how mistakes are fixed. Ka'b ibn Malik radiallahu an, he was amongst the companions, the young companions. And when the expedition of Tabuk happened, he stayed behind. He had no excuses. He kept on saying, I'll get ready, until everybody left, and he was left behind. When he came out after everybody left, he saw that only the old, infirm people who were excused from going and the hypocrites were left behind. And he felt very bad at that because his heart was in the right place. He was a sincere Muslim, a sincere companion of the Prophet ﷺ. But in this case, he had fallen behind. Now when he came to know that the Prophet ﷺ was returning from the expedition and he had not gone, and he had no excuse, all sorts of things coming up. What do I tell the Prophet ﷺ? What do I tell him? He knew that the Prophet ﷺ comes immediately to the masjid to pray after returning from a journey. So now the hypocrites are coming and they're making their excuses and the Prophet ﷺ is letting them go. He comes before the Prophet ﷺ. He says salam. The Prophet ﷺ smiles at him, but he's relating a hadith. He said he smiled at me like the smile of a person who is angry. He smiled at me, but like the smile of a person who is angry. Look at the combination here. Showing concern, but at the same time, something's wrong. Something's not right. I'm concerned for you. I love you. But the mistake is in its place. So he told the Prophet ﷺ he had no excuse. The Prophet ﷺ praised that. أَمَّا هَذَا فَقَدْ صَدَقَ. As for him, he told the truth. The right thing that Ka'b ibn Malik did was tell the truth. I didn't have any excuse. The Prophet ﷺ praised that point. He did the right thing. And the Prophet ﷺ, before praising him, asked him the question too, sought to clarify. What is it that left you behind? What made you stay behind? Did you not buy a mount? Did you not have transport? So the Prophet ﷺ is clarifying. Not immediately, I know you're wrong. Right? Seeking to clarify. And when the answer comes, the Prophet ﷺ praising what he did right. So look at these, how the Prophet ﷺ is doing it. Now, there's a general boycott on these sincere companions. And he was the youngest of them, Ka'b ibn Malik. So nobody can talk to them. If somebody talks to them, if they talk to anybody, nobody responds. So the other two companions were older. They would stay in their homes. As for Ka'b ibn Malik, he was young. He'd go out and he'd see if there's anybody that wants to talk to me. He'd go out and everybody's ignoring him. He said, I go to Masjid Nabawi to pray. He'd go to Masjid Nabawi and he'd try to get as close to the Prophet as possible. And then he'd pray. And he's praying, he's looking out of the corner of his eye. And when looking out of the corner of his eye, he's seeing the Prophet looking at him. Then when he turns to the Prophet, the Prophet turns his head away. Look at the concern the Prophet is so showing. Right? I have concern for you. I love you. But at the same time, something's wrong and it needs to be corrected. This mistake needs to be fixed. So look at the balance that's there. This is what we need with our children. We make mistakes. Our children will make mistakes. That's how we learn. But what is the ideal balance of correcting that? It's love and compassion on one side and then correcting the mistake on one side. Not going too much on any one side will cause a problem. We need to do it in the right way. We need to do it in the right manner. And seek to clarify, what is their niyyah first? What is it that they're trying to do? You might be surprised that they have a legitimate concern that you can give them an alternate for. Okay, you have a legitimate need. I can fix that. There was a companion of the Prophet ﷺ, his name was Abu Rafi'. He was a young companion. He would go to the orchards of the Ansar. They would have these date orchards in Medina. And he would take stones and throw at them. Make the dates drop. Causing all problems. And so they brought him before the Prophet ﷺ. You know what he's doing? He's throwing. Dates are dropping. You have all these dates are there. They're not for you hit a rock at a date palm tree. You can cause damage. So first of all, the Prophet asks him, why are you doing this? Why are you throwing stones at the date palm tree? Here's the one answer. To eat. Okay? And it answers the question. So the Prophet says, there's dates that are lying at the bottom. Eat those that have already fallen on. Now this hadith is actually taught in principles of jurisprudence. Like when there's a custom that when people don't mind that somebody takes the food that is fallen, is it okay to take? In that time it was perfectly permissible. So that's why the Prophet told them that these dates that are falling down on the ground, because they don't mind that you take them, eat those and eat those. Don't throw up there. So the Prophet asked him, sought to clarify first, what was his need? A legitimate need. Well, how can this need be fulfilled in a better manner without causing destruction to property? And then the Prophet ended with a dua. He put his head on this boy's head, and said, Allahumma ashbi' batna. Oh Allah, fill his belly. The hadith, the dua, is suited to the situation at hand. Right? Made dua for him. That kind of dua, that kind of concern, where the child can hear you making supplication for him. Oh Allah, do this for him. I know that as parents, we make dua continuously for our children, but they need to hear us making dua. This is something that I'm negligent in, and I hope that we all remember from time on, that when we make dua for our children, they need to hear us making dua for them, so that they hear our concern. What do we desire for them? What do we want for them? So the Prophet made dua for him. And this is not an isolated incident. Even in a case where the person has an illegitimate need, wants to do something that is not permissible, the Prophet would also make dua for that person, but try to move him away from that wrong sin. So a young boy from Quraysh came to the Prophet ﷺ. He said, Ya Allah, give me, O Messenger of Allah, give me permission for wrong relationships, for wrong things. And the people started saying, how can you say this? How can you say this? The Prophet asked him to bring him closer. This by itself tells you what kind of relationship the Sahaba had, especially the young companions with the Prophet ﷺ. We are living in a time of openness. Go back 40, 50 years, what your children and what you knew was confined to a specific area. That is no longer the case. You need to have such an open relationship with your children that if there's any kind of issue, they come to you first. And this young companion felt so open that he could come to the Prophet and make this request. And the Prophet calls him. Now he's asking for something wrong. He's asking for something impermissible, and he's asking for permission to commit something impermissible. So the Prophet wants to build empathy, wants him to realize how others would feel if it happened to them, if it happened to their relatives. So Rasul wants him to build empathy. So he asks him questions. He said, أَتُحِبُّهُ لِأُمِّكَ? Would you like this for your mother? He said, no, I don't. وَلَا النَّاسُ يُحِبُّونَ لِأُمَّهَاتِهِمْ أو كما قال صلى الله عليه وسلم. And people won't like it for their mothers also. He's putting that boy in other people's shoes. Imagine how others would feel. What you want to do, that's somebody's mother, that's somebody's daughter, that's somebody's sister, that's somebody's aunt. What if it's the case with your mother? You're connecting it in that situation, building empathy, making the child feel. He says, no. And there's that people wouldn't like it for their mothers also. Then the Prophet said, would you like this for your daughter? He said, no. The Prophet went on. People wouldn't like it for their daughters also. Would you like it for your sister? No. Continuing. Would you like it for your paternal aunt? Would you like it for your maternal aunt? These questions are building in him the feeling that I don't want this for my own family members. How can I then desire this for other people? Now when the Prophet has built this in him, put him in other people's shoes, have him feel that empathy, the Prophet puts his hand on him and makes dua. Now this dua is not like the previous dua, because that was a dua that was for another reason. This dua is for another reason. Allahumma gfir dhanba wa tahhir qalba wa hassin farja. Oh Allah, forgive his sin. Purify his heart and make him such that he doesn't commit these illicit, unlawful things, unlawful relationships. And the child completely changed after that. So look at that. Seeking to understand, clarify. Is this a permissible need? Is this an impermissible need? If it's a permissible need, what is the way to fulfill it? If it's an impermissible need, build empathy. Try to make him realize. Connect him to that situation. And in all cases, end with dua. End with supplication. Have the child hear your concern. Make that dua suit that situation that child is in, so that he feels your concern. He feels what your love. He feels that you want for him something that is good, and you're making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal that he stays out of that wrong. He stays out of that thing that is impermissible. He stays out of that thing that is incorrect. And you have other examples of this with the Prophet ﷺ testing his companions, even on good things. So Ubay ibn Ka'b, the best reciter, had such a beautiful recitation of the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ would come and ask him, what is the greatest verse that is with you? And when the companion answered Ayatul Kursi, the verse of the throne, the Prophet ﷺ again patted his chest. Look at this touch, this feeling, praising him. And he said, may you take pleasure in knowledge. Again, dua, doing something good. May you take, see all these things, the dua is there, continuous dua. Imagine a father doing this with his children, making dua, making supplication when he does good, when he does wrong, using that appropriate situation to make a specific dua that suits that situation that the child is in. Many times, for example, you know that if this child, he should ask this question, but he's not asking this question. I want him to know this. Maybe it's a sensitive topic. Maybe I don't want to address it directly. What is the way to do it? There's precedence in the sunnah of that too. The hadith of Jibreel. When Jibreel alayhi salam came, he was asking the Prophet some questions. And Jibreel alayhi salam already knew the answers to those questions. It was for the Sahaba to know, except for that last one. When is the day of judgment? But the other questions Jibreel alayhi salam knew. And the Prophet is answering the questions, and the scholars say that this shows that, for example, one person can ask another person a question, even though the questioner knows the answer to that question, but he does it for what reason? So that other people that are present know. So for example, the husband asking the wife a question that he knows the answer to, but he does it in such a way that the child hears. For example, there's some people at work, and I saw them smoking, and what is that something, how does that make you feel? How does that make you think? And the child is hearing this, and he so instead of you putting it on him, he hears the question another way, another form, and the mother is asking, or the mother asking the husband, and the husband is answering that question. So this is a way where they can hear that question. So you have multiple ways of giving tarbiyah to your children. It's not only talk, but it's also questions, answers, and back and forth, communicating, making dua, making nasiyah, constructive criticism by praising what they did right first, instead of jumping immediately to that criticism. If they made a mistake, what is it that they did right? Inspiring them to do good by pushing them to do their best by modeling that behavior for them. By doing best, because that is the best way to do that. The children, they will see that hypocrisy immediately. If you look at that situation and say, look, we're in this together. I'm striving my best to be a good Muslim. I want you to strive yourself to be a good Muslim too. And we're both in this together. We're in this together. We're in this journey together. Let's help each other do this. Insha'Allah, the child will grow up to be righteous. And I know there's very difficult challenges that we face today. But it's not just the fact that the environment is bad. The environment by itself is not the ultimate factor. The environment by itself is not the ultimate factor. I was telling the brothers a little while ago that you can have somebody in a bad environment and they make a good choice. And you can have somebody in a good environment and they make a bad choice. And this is mentioned in the Quran. Nuh alayhi salam had a son. Nuh alayhi salam had a wife. Both of them were disbelievers. And Nuh alayhi salam is a Nabi, is a prophet. What kind of tarbiyah do you think was going on in his home? Can there be any environment better than the home of a Nabi? And that too is from the Ulul Azm, from those 5 messengers that are mentioned, with specific distinction. So his wife, his son, who were under his authority, they were the weaker party, but they did not sway. They made a bad choice in a perfect environment. They got the best environment, but they made a bad choice. On the other hand, you have Fir'aun, who claimed divinity for himself. His environment, his home, his palace, all the status and wealth that he had was at such a high level of badness, such a high level of evilness, it would break all scales. And yet, his wife, she is from those women that the Prophet has told us in an authentic hadith, Asiya. She reached spiritual perfection. She reached spiritual perfection in that environment. How did she do that? She made a good choice in a bad environment. So it's possible. Challenges, the circumstances might be challenging, but it can be done. The daughter of Fir'aun had a hairdresser. And she was combing the hair, and the comb fell of the daughter of Fir'aun. And this hairdresser, when she picked up the comb, she said, Bismillah. And the daughter heard. And she said, you mean my father? Because her father claimed divinity. Her father claimed to be God. You mean you're talking about my father? And she explained, no. Allah is your Lord, my Lord, and your father's Lord. And she said, I'm going to tell my father. You know how when a person is a brat, they want to go and even, I'm going to tell my father. And she goes. And this woman is tortured, and her child is killed along with her by Fir'aun, the hairdresser of the daughter of Fir'aun. Look at how many years pass. The Prophet ﷺ comes, his nubuwah, he's going on Mi'raj, the journey. The Prophet ﷺ smells a scent, and he asks Jibreel, what is this scent? And he's told, this is the scent of the hairdresser of the daughter of Fir'aun. Look at that. She made a good choice in a bad environment. This Fir'aun, he had everything, wealth, power, authority, army, but he could not challenge the iman of that woman who was under him, neither his wife nor this employee. She made a good choice in a bad environment. So environment by itself is not the ultimate factor. It is the tarbiyah. Don't let this disenchantment come into your mind. Times are so bad. How can I do proper tarbiyah? You might be in difficult and challenging circumstances. You might not have the resources others have. You know, a person might be widowed, like we said in the beginning. A person might be a revert. A person might have other challenges. The husband might have to work, might be away from his family long hours. But inshallah, you can make it. Your niyyah is there. Your intention is there in this environment to give your child a proper environment, and you striving along with him. You making dua to Allah Azza wa Jal, Ya Allah, I want to give the best to my children. I want him to have good in this world and good in the hereafter. Your dua for your child, inshallah, will be accepted. Keep that husnul dhan with Allah Azza wa Jal, that it will be accepted. But you have to try. You have to make that effort first. I have to make that effort first. You have to make that effort first. And allow yourself to understand that you are not perfect. I am not a perfect parent. I will make mistakes along the way. But if your child sees that you're trying, he sees that you're really committed to going through those changes along with him to make this journey, that'll be perfectly fine, inshallah. Because he knows that you're human, I am human. And if that relationship is open, that he can come to you with any problem, you can address it. If the relationship is very formal, very closed, very unfriendship-like, then if he encounters those spiritual struggles in life that he's going through, he won't come to you. And he might turn to the wrong place. So you have to have a really, very open relationship. In this time, you have to be like his friend. And you have to do the things that a friend does. Give him that time. Give him that time. Put down that phone. Bring him closer. One of the companions, he saw that the people were having a majlis, they were talking, and the youth were pushed aside to the corner. And he said, what are you doing? Bring them closer. These people are the elders of tomorrow. We were once young, and now we are elders. And now we have authority. These people are elders. They need to hear from you. They need to listen from you. They need to talk to you. They need to hear from you. They need to engage with you so that they also grow up and they learn. Don't put them aside. Bring them inside. Don't put them outside. Bring them inside. Talk to them. Have that open channel of communication with them. And anything start off, know that use these prophetic principles. Praise, smile, ask, seek to clarify, seek to understand what is the need. How can that need be fulfilled in a better way? If you don't know, ask a scholar. The most beautiful thing in this is that you don't need to be a scholar. You don't need to be a fluent, perfect speaker. If you have that desire and will with you that I'm on this journey with you, my son. I'm on this journey with you, my daughter. That is what you need. Because you're modeling that behavior, what it should be. And that is the greatest teaching method of the Prophet ﷺ. You have that. If you can't give a talk for 20, 30 minutes, that's not the point. The point is that you have that desire and you're striving along with him. Inshallah, Allah Azza wa Jal will fulfill that for you. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us all tawfiq. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us righteous. May Allah make our children righteous. May Allah Azza wa Jal make us learn and apply these skills of prophetic parenting to our lives. May Allah Azza wa Jal give us all tawfiq. Wa astaghfirullah min qawlin bila amalin.
Jazakallahu Mufti Sahab for providing us with a vivid description of Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam as a parent. Inshallah, Mufti Zim, you're gonna. Inshallah.
Jazakallahu Khair. A very important announcement. I need everyone to please not leave. Stay inside here, inshallah. We're going to be serving food, but we need to ensure that we follow the instructions. So if we can all, inshallah, move.